Hello there, I'm Rick, and today I want to talk to you about server wipes and what that means if you are a parent of a computer gamer. When I grew up, you kind of developed software, including games. It took a long time to do, and you got that on a, say, CD, a very permanent medium, or before that you got it on floppy disks, and before that you wrote it yourself by hard, without understanding. I copied things on a paper, trying to figure out why it didn't work when we were done hours later. But nowadays, though, most games are what's called early access, meaning it's not really beta even. It's just yeah, you can give input, you can give it a test ride, but it's like half done. And to counter that, and the benefit of it is you get people to donate their money early, you get feedback early. So a lot of benefits with that, but it's also a lot of drawbacks with it, that you get people thinking they've tested the project, but they just got a small sample. Quite often they've only seen the skeleton, not really the full meat of the system. So it has pros and cons. But going back to server wipes, back in the days when I was a kid, few things happened, and actually it was a pain to redistribute a bug fix if you found one. So you were really thorough before you put things on a CD and then you distribute that over the world. But now updates are kind of free. Even of your phone, the provider of the phone supplies that for you. So that means that quite often you develop and then you update, and you develop and then you update, and the cycle goes on. And that's where server wipes comes in. A lot of games has that part of the ecosystem that, yeah, we're going to test this branch of code, this way to play the game, and then we're going to wipe it, we're going to restart. That usually means for your kid or for you as a player that say you level up, boom, you're back on square. But quite often it's also you have a few branches to show some quests and stuff like that, and you re-explore and find that the lore has changed. You find that new options present themselves that weren't there when you did the previous run. But I also think it's such a very humbling lesson in real life in server wipes that you get a redo, you get to make over. And kids today who play games like this understand that you can always, or once again use this as a metaphor that to remind them, you can always reset, you can always choose, today I'm gonna choose to do things different. Because the thing is, when you play games, quite often we see waves of people leaving. They like the high numbers, they like the creds, the high stats, whatever it is, the fancy gear. And when there's a server wipe, they leave, they go to something else. But what I want to encourage your kid to do is to turn a bit more pro, to stay there and play the game again. Be curious about the changes, be curious about themselves, the self-awareness that happens when they understand most of it. Can they see the difference? Can they see the difference in themselves? Can they see the difference in the mechanics ahead of them? And they can find out more ways to play the game. And in real life, that's always the case too. You can always add a few matrices, a few axes of what better looks like in anything you do in life, to make it more fun, to make it more challenging, to see the progress that you're making. And server wipes are a wonderful way to see that, but also once again to, if you're a developer, if you're creating something, to do over and say, no, we didn't really like this branch, we didn't really like what this has, we want to tilt it more like this. And your kid, with that generous, humbly, kind, self-aware way, will learn better, faster, and be happier. So do embrace the server wipes. Do ask your kids about what is a server wipe. What does this mean to you? Do you play games to do that? Or do you play games that are fixed in place that rarely changes things. Like an MMO, for example, don't do a server wipe that often. And how? Ask them now. What if? What would you do? Or in the current state that we're in right now, talk about zombies coming, and what's a pandemic here? What would you do if you did things really over? What would you bring if we say moved somewhere else in the midst of this? It's always good to talk about what would a reset look like for you. What axes have you learned not to compromise? And what constraints can you handle if you do a reset? And what would you let go, saying, no, I'm sorry I did this. I've found a better way right now. Be kind and generous to yourself. Thank you so much for stopping by, my friend. Have a good one.